checking phone call records and stuff like that.
Jesus.
Every there's just no evidence that he cheated, and so everyone's kind of eventually, I mean, not cheated, match fixed. He definitely didn't cheat. That would have been even really sad if he was cheating and also didn't see that spine crawler. But yeah, it's kind of like just at this point like a dead thing. Like nobody really discusses it as like a. I wonder if he did, but there's always those haters that say he just
Yeah.
the people who were saying, oh, he definitely match fixed are now just saying he's terrible because he didn't see it. Like there's still a lot of like talk about it, but it's pretty much dead. Like
You know,
from the
I never heard that they like took away his phone and all that other stuff. So I think that's definitely good to know. Jeff, did you know that?
What?
That they went to that extent to investigate, taking away his phone, checking his computer, like
I just knew that they always do that. They take
okay.
it extremely serious there.
yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. I just brought that up, and I was curious to hear a Korean commentator's opinion on it. But go ahead and continue.
So yeah, I mean that's basically it. I definitely thanks so much for letting me come on here. Like I've always kind of wanted to go on a show like this, and I've watched your show a lot in the past, and it's cool to like just give like kind of my Korea, I don't know how to say it. It's like just
Perspective.
perspective. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So thanks so much. Everybody who wants to follow me and stuff could just follow me on Twitter at ProxyWolf. I tweet all my StarCraft stuff there and all my streaming stuff and whatnot. So just thanks again, Lycan, and thanks as well, Jeff, for having me on the
Yeah, man.
show.
It's
Thanks for
great to
coming.
have you. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. It's going to be about 5 minutes. When we come back, we will be talking Dota too. So if you cannot stomach the thought of Dota, then this is the end of the show for you. But otherwise, we're going to come back. We're going to talk with Heyoka, and we're going to get down on some Dota. So we'll be back soon. I apologize for the lack of music in the downtime. We'll get virtual audio cables set up for the next show. But in the meantime, thank you again, Wolf, for coming on, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Late Game episode 31. Today is June 10th, 2015, and I am here with Heyoka and In Control. And actually, now that I think about it, I have to change the game because, ladies and gentlemen, we're not covering StarCraft right now. I feel it's kind of dirty saying it, but at the same time liberating. Let me also change the title to say who we
used to do
have.
that? I don't remember how he dealt with switching games.
I think he always stayed StarCraft.
I think he did too.
Yeah. But you know, we don't really have any Dota viewers, so I think for the time being we'll go ahead and switch over every time we switch topics to a different game.
You're gonna go to Call of Duty? When do
yeah.
you get a Halo segment?
Dude, I don't know. I've been thinking about. I gotta turn that off. So apparently I have 2 subscribers: Bloodfest Rambo, Bloodfeast Rambo, and there was another one I missed it. But if you guys didn't hear before, it says surprise motherfucker when you subscribe, but I need to turn that off for the show. It's unprofessional and whatnot. But anyway, hey, okay, you're a director of operations, right?
I am, yes.
Director.
That's my actual title.
Actual title, director of operations at Team Liquid, and so that means he's a pretty important guy, folks. For those of you who don't follow Dota. He also has over 3,000 followers on Twitter. A very authoritative.
No, it's less than 3,000.
Less
than 3,000.
Oh, well, shit. I don't know.
You're overselling it.
Either way, I've actually worked with Heyoka for a long time. By a long time, I mean in esports standards. I guess a year would be a long time through Esports Express. And so he's a very funny guy. I really enjoy working with him, and I'm glad to have him as my first Dota guest on the talk show. So without further ado, let's talk about DreamHack Summer, right? So a pretty crazy upset. Team that was literally dead came back from the dead just a couple days later. You want to tell us about that?
Well, it's not so much an upset as it is that Empire was late in getting their visas. Actually, looking at your stream here is super confusing. But Empire was late in getting their visas. They just admitted they made a mistake, and so they had to withdraw. And so DreamHack does a format where they had 8 teams for a league, and then it cuts to the top 6 for the LAN.
Oh wow!
And so they went to the team that finished in 7th place, Vega Squadron.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also Russian, and so they couldn't get visas because it was too late for them too. So what they had to do was go to the 8th finishing place team, basically unknown, which is just kind of like a hodgepodge team that got thrown together for some events this spring and summer, and to do TI qualifiers. But they had already disbanded, so they went and I guess they talked to them, and they decided they were going to get back together for one weekend to play in this tournament. And if you go to their Twitter, which I think is BU_Dota or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I have to look it up, but it's the greatest Twitter because it has 10 tweets that are oh, we're disbanding, our members are leaving, we're no longer an organization, thank you for supporting us. And then out of nowhere, there's another tweet that says, we're going to DreamHack Summer, please cheer for us.
And now it's $10,000 guaranteed, right?
Yes, I believe that is the minimum cut they get.
That's, I mean, shit, I can't imagine anyone saying no to coming back for that. So what do their chances look like? Are there any star players on the team that are gonna, give them a chance, or is it just they're coming for the show and that's it?
Yeah, I mean they've played a handful of good games throughout the league, which I know largely because I was actually on the Dream League broadcast briefly.
Mm-hmm.
But they probably don't really stand a chance against any of these teams. They're playing a best of 1 against Burden United, which is a team they could possibly beat. I think they took a game off them when they played their series earlier. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
So they could actually advance, but they're pretty unlikely to beat any of these teams in a best of 3, like Navi or Ninjas in Pajamas.
Now, who do you think's favored right now to win DreamHack Summer?
Probably VP.
It was Element before they dropped out, right?
Empire, but yes.
Still learning those
names. So the way they have the bracket set up is it's 2 GSL brackets basically, where there's 6 teams total. So there's 1 GSL bracket with 4, the bottom 4 teams,
mm-hmm.
and then after they play that out, the 2 teams that get through it get seeded into a second GSL bracket against the 2 teams that finish top. So there's a huge advantage for the teams that finish the top 2, which is Alliance and Virtus Pro. And so there's a pretty good chance that one of them will take it. Also, they're just better mostly. Navi's looked okay. I guess NIP just won a tournament over Alliance, but I think VP is still better.
Okay. What about Team Secret?
They are the best team in Dota right now. They won the last 3 LANs they went to. I think they lost 1 game total in the Mars League.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the finals.
Okay.
Yeah, they lost exactly 1 game to Empire in the finals of the tournament. Oh no, they lost a game to VC too. I'm wrong. They lost 2 games total.
Gotcha. Let's see. I'm just going through my notes right here. All right. So right now, we were talking about this before the show yesterday. Western Dota, Eastern Dota. It's kind of topsy-turvy at the moment, right? And I think you were saying that for the international this year, it's there's usually a pattern to who wins the international. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, every year. So the way it works is that the International had the first one in 2011, and Navi won it, and then in 2012, IG won, and then in 2013, Alliance won. So every year it switches back and forth between if a Western or an Eastern team wins, and last year it was an Eastern team. It was Navi. So what that means is that a Western team is destined to win this year, and also the best team in the world is Secret, which is a bunch of Europeans.
Yeah.
EG versus Secret Finals.
That would be pretty sick. That
How
would be
hype
sick
would that
because that'd be amazing because specifically because EG Secret has 2 ex-EG players. They played in the finals of Red Bull too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about
And the Summit.
Did I mix it up? They played.
I don't think it's Red Bull. It was Summit that they played in the finals of.
Oh yeah, they played IG in Red Bull, right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I mixed it up.
I don't want to. I don't want to brag, but apparently I'm a Dota analyst now. So
It's good. Dota.
well, then let's start with EG and MLG, Jeff.
yeah,
What
How
happened?
did that tournament go?
I don't fucking know, man.
Hey, okay, can you?
Oh, it's best of ones. I know that. That's kind of like if you watch a lot of EG games, they'll take kind of weird drafts. Like they're pretty okay with trying to push the meta and do different things in that way. I don't think that's necessarily the reason why they lost, but I know that best of one in Dota is extremely well. It's best of one like in any esport, in any fucking game. You know, it becomes a little bit more of anybody. You know, any given Sunday type of thing. And I think that hurt them pretty bad there. The London, what was that team called?
London Conspiracy, the Greek team.
Yeah.
The Greek-
Okay. Those guys, they did really well. Not to take it away from them, but I think that format is, you know, and MLG likes that. They like to be a little bit different from everybody else, and I don't think I would like every event to be like that. I think I would really not like that. But for MLG to have a best of one format and group play like that, that's pretty cool.
So, do you think that I mean, is it a time constraint or is it just them trying to spice it up a little bit, make the stakes a little higher for the group stage?
Probably both.
I believe the last time MLG ran ran a LAN on their own, not one of these joint Dota ones. They did the best of 2 thing, which I think was a little bit new at that
That's
time.
even worse.
Now, how's the best of
that's
2
actually-
work?
The only
So-
thing worse than best of 2 is the TI format where you play 2 of 3 best of 3 games in one day.
Yeah, and then you play the other one.
Then
It's like the old MSL format.
Oh
Yeah,
god!
remember MSL used to do that, where you'd play one game and then there'd be like a week break and you'd play the rest of the series.
I know the players hated that. They spoke pretty vehemently that it was terrible.
Well, so one of the things about EG that's sort of funny that has kind of followed them around pretty much forever is that they always play worse on day one than in every other day. So they have all these tournaments where they go on day one and they go like 1-3 or something, or they finish they barely scrape by, and then they go through and they just crush everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular format is also kind of bad for them specifically, I think.
Yeah.
So, how does the best of 2 work? Is it they just play through the group and then
It's
each
just 2
win
games.
gets you a point?
Yeah, so you play, it's like a round robin, but you play 2 games and then they tally up all the points. It's just, the name itself is insanely stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
But no
So-
one will say 2-game series.
So would that give you still a more, a better chance than the best of 1, I guess? To, best of 1, you're done. You lose that game, that's the end of it. But if you get that best of 2, that gives you a few more chances to pull through, right?
Yeah, it can be a little more fair in the sense, too, that you'll end up having 2 games. So you'll have 1 game on Radiant and 1 game on Dire. And because some teams are actually better on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have stuff there's some teams, too, that will play the first game of a series worse than... Empire has this thing where they lose game 1 a lot, and then they start adapting to drafts, and then they play better games 2 and 3 and 4 or whatever. And so in that sense, it does sort of change which teams are strong, which is a little bit interesting at least.
Yeah. So let's see what else we're gonna hit down today. So EG at MLG, we talked a little about that. Let's talk about the international, right? The road to the international. TI5, 13 million today and still climbing, right?
Yes, I think it hit 13 last night, something like that.
Yep. This morning
It
I saw.
just passed
Insane.
TI4. Yeah, it passed TI4 like 4 days ago or something, 5 days ago.
So, huge prize pool. A lot of teams in the running. Who
The
is
hugest.
the biggest in esports history? It's whoever wins, millionaire. And this is.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like it's getting up there. I mean, there's not many sporting events that compete for. It's hard to put a dollar sign. Like we just had a boxing match where both guys won like $150 million, obviously, and then UFC fights. So fighting sports, they laugh at this, but I don't know, a single competition for $13 million.
Stuff like tennis is actually kind of small relative to something like this. It's,
Yeah,
like a lot of the opens, I think, are around $1 million. I have to check that again. I researched.
I think
it
so.
once 'cause it was
I
interesting.
think golf is like the big ones. I think you win $10 million or something like that for first place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so golf is still above. Like my point's not this is like I'm not being like is this the biggest prize pool ever? Like no, it's not. It's not. But certainly esports, and then it's starting to kind of encroach on a lot of these really big and super established mainstream sporting events, which is just fucking bonkers. And I'm on record on different shows and tweets and whatever as saying that there was no fucking way they were going to get anywhere near the same prize pool this year because last year was an anomaly. It was like it became a thing unto itself. Like people are like, well, I'm going to contribute to that because fuck it, I want to see this get bigger.
Yeah.
And then
That
once
hit
they
10 million,
did it,
that was the thing.
once they did it, I thought that would be like, okay, that's we're done with that. This year there wasn't even hype. People are just like, yeah, well, let's get more than. I mean, obviously, instantly $13 million, and a lot of people are like, well, the compendium is totally worth the donation. I'm completely fine. Whatever. That's awesome. They just casually raised $13 million.
That's the biggest thing here is there's not been a hype. We've well surpassed. What was last year's, Matt? 11.
They're over it. It's
Nice.
not a big deal.
And it was like that, like you said.
Next year will be $76 billion. The 5 kids will literally buy islands. They'll die of alcohol poisoning. It's going to like throw off the Balkans. But you know what?
I'd like to
Dota.
see. I want to see actually a couple years from now. I want to see where are they now for Dota players. Right, there seems to be the metabolism of professionals in esports is a lot faster than conventional sports. So I think, should be able seeing some midlife crises a little earlier. Before these kids are hitting 30. A couple people that have won an international now, like you said, dying of alcohol poisoning. It'd just be curious, not to get.
I actually wonder that about a lot of esports people because not so much people as players, because you get this thing where like to be good as a player, you have to be like that has to be all you think about, and that has to be all you think about for maybe 10 years at a time. So then at that point, what does your post esports life look like? Because a lot of them don't really have the social skills to like work at ESL or like start their own company or be with some other organization like become a caster necessarily. So
Yep.
it's like there's this black hole that I think a certain amount of people are going to fall into.
There really is, and I'm curious where a lot of these kids are going to end up. But at the same time, let's also talk about it. Despite, if you work with programmers, sometimes you'll find out that it's incredible the feats they can achieve, and yet how silly they can be sometimes. The number of times that I have to repeat the rules for my weekly tournament is incredible. When they're just right there, it's like 2 small paragraphs and a couple bullets. But I'm curious. We're an intelligent group, right? I think that there are going to be a lot of people. You don't think there's going to be a lot of less likely people to do stupid shit with the money they make?
Oh no, it's an intelligent group.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think overall.
It was just a joke. Move
Oh.
on. What are you doing? Don't be so fucking awkward. My God.
I thought you were going somewhere with that. I thought you had a part 2.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. But all right, cool. So with that, moving forward, TI5. All right, so let's talk about the Compendium first. Heyoka, the Compendium, they did it again. It was silent. It just happened. 13 million. What features did they bring in the Compendium? Was there anything new this year that made it particularly special?
Not really. I think they actually might have made it worse because they made it more difficult to like. There's this thing where if you buy multiple compendiums, you can like level it up, and then you can like get points, and it entitles you to more rewards. And they made that way harder this year. Like the value added was about the same as it was last year, and actually a lot of the people I spoke to when it first came out were kind kind of underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they've done more of this year is they do this thing where when it reaches a certain point, you get an immortal item, which is just like a really nice item set. Basically, it has like special particle effects. It looks more different than some of the other items, just in terms of like what it does. And those are always really, really good. And they've released 3 sets of those now, and that's where a lot of the spikes come from, is people get really excited to buy those items.
I was looking at the webpage for the compendium, and there's the initial compendium cost, and then there's the immediate level 50, right? So do you still have to buy multiple compendiums, or can you just get that level 50 for like $25 or whatever?
Yeah, you can just buy that one, and it's the same as just buying 50, and you get like a break on
Okay.
buying a bunch at once, as opposed to just buying them individually.
Okay.
Like a lot of these rewards, I think the rewards even this year were maybe on par, or maybe a little bit worse than last year, outside of all the treasures, the immortal treasures. Emoticons are good, but we had those last year. The HUD skin is nice, but we had that last year. Last year we had weather effects, which is really cool. These couriers are nice. The terrain is okay, I guess. The music pack I've literally never used. The announcer pack, I guess I don't feel one way or another about. Oh, there are weather effects this year. They're just later.
Okay, so I mean, overall though, it's a product people are enjoying now. Do you think that your sentiment within the community is it, hey, I want to support Dota, or I want to see that prize pool grow, or they're like, oh yeah, I'm excited to get all this crap?
I used to see a lot of people just excited to support Dota. Over time, I think it's shifted towards people just buying it because they want the stuff, and I think that's cool. I think that's actually a good natural progression, because if you get people sort of used to just doing stuff to support the community or whatever,
right?
It's like you do that a couple times, and then people are kind of like, well, I'm moving on in my life.
Exactly. The luster of being a part of that moves on, right?
Yeah, but I think the value added they create is really good. Like having those items is nice because people really want those, and those survive throughout the years too. Like you'll see people using the Storm Spirit, our Immortal from last year, all the time because it's just so much better than the regular Storm Spirit because it has a really cool effect when he zips around.
Well, I mean, so there you go, and that's I think the very intelligent thing about it is you get the hype of supporting creating this history, right? And then after that, it's like, oh well, international's coming up, can't wait to get whatever, right? And I'm sure we're going to see as this evolves some very consistent items that are like each year they have this particular item, and it's like, oh well, I get that item from TI5 and TI6 and etc. So, it's still new. This is only year 2 of this, but I'm looking forward to the future and seeing, where 5 years from now Dota happens to be. Maybe we'll see a shrink in it, but still, I think this is definitely a good sign for esports.
I mean, honestly, the most genius part of it is that they found a way to actually make money in this tournament. Not only is it the biggest tournament, it's also one of the few that grosses, just pure gross, way more than it costs to run, which is insanely rare in esports at all.
Do we know what
purely... what's that? They take 75%, like their cut is 75% of the compendium. They take all the stuff that's not going to the prize pool.
Jesus.
So you can just do like the dirty math there yourself. So it's pretty good. And I know it costs a lot to run the international, but last year they sold, 11 million went into it. So, you do the multiplication and that's like a 40 million gross, which is crazy.
So right now they've made 52 million total on the compendium sales. That's just insane. What's buy one for $5 and then level it up for 25? Is that what
it's 10. It's 10 for the original, yeah.
But
10
still,
for one level.
Jesus. All right. So, road the TI, right? We were talking about Korea. You say, now, which team has made it to the TI and which is going to be playing in the wild card?
There's 2 Korean teams, MVP Phoenix and Hot 6. Hot 6 is the one that made it, got the actual invite, but they played Phoenix in the finals of the qualifiers, so they are also going to play in the wild card. So both the best teams in Korea are there.
Okay.
Last year, only MVP Phoenix was there, so it's a improvement.
So the week leading it up to the international, is that when the wild cards will be played?
Yeah, generally. So the way the format works is they have a group stage, which is it's like a giant group stage usually, where every team just plays every other team like a billion times. But then before that, there's a 4-team plan where the 4 teams that got second in each of the regional qualifiers play. They just play like a single LM bracket, which is what it was last year. I don't know for sure if that's what it is this year. But then the winner of that gets a slot into TI, and the losers are just out. But they get a vacation to go hang out, which would probably be a lot of fun, except for I'm sure they want to slit their wrists just sitting around watching the tournament they're not playing in.
I can imagine. So, Jeff, have you been to the international?
No, I was at the PAX Prime when they had it there, but I wasn't actually attending the tournament. So,
Okay. Excuse me. Apologize. So
What kind of zoo do you live in? What is this?
right, my roommates have dogs, and because the long story short is that I don't have wired internet upstairs, and I don't want to use wireless without being like right next to the router. So the sacrifice is that occasionally the dogs lose their shit, and I can't.
It's right behind you.
It is. Oh, so the land wolf, or land wolf? What do you call it? The
Most wolves are land. Yeah.
the carpet whale is that big blue Weimaraner, and he's a blind carpet whale, so he's particularly excited when things happen and he can't see them because he's blind. Anyway,
So he's Daredevil.
yes, he is Daredevil, except he's a very whiny Daredevil, and I know that really sounds mean, like saying, "Oh, that's the whiny blind dog," but really, it's just he knows that if he whines, he gets attention, and he hams it up as much as he can. So
Nice.
I feel very little empathy for that part of him. The blind part, yes, because he got it from Lyme disease, and that's horrible. But either way, so that's
My
those
God, you're just killing the mood right now.
those are my roommate's dogs, and they'll be gone at the end of July. So then we won't have to worry about the barking. But I also hope to be moved back up to my room. Anyway, let's get talking back again about Dota. So the road to the international. There are a lot of people here watching that are from the StarCraft scene. Matt, can you run us through how these regional qualifiers work?
So the way the international works is that originally it was a invite-only tournament. They just invited 6 teams and they played, or 16 teams and they played. And I think that first year, I guess I don't remember for 2011, but for 2012 they invited 16 teams and one of them had to drop out. So at the last minute they organized, which was basically like a show match, to play for the last spot between an Eastern and a Western team. And then every year since then, they've reduced the number of invites slightly and increased the number of qualifiers. So there were 2 qualifiers at one point. Now there are 4. The last 2 years have had 4 qualifier spots, which are split up between America, North and South America, Europe, China, and then Southeast Asia. So like Korea and the Philippines and Singapore grouped together. And then they invite like the 10 or 12 best teams or whatever, and then pretty much every other relevant team gets put into these qualifiers, which are like 10-ish spots.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually pretty good. The invites, every year there are very few arguments about who deserved the invites. This year there's a little bit of one because Newbie got an invite, presumably because they won last year, but they're like not really that good right now. They still look okay. And then, they were just, they do these gigantic qualifiers, which take they play 50 games over 2 days, because there'll be 10 teams and they'll play a round robin, and then after the round robin they'll play a bracket out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the craziest shit. But it does a really good job of ensuring that the people who get there are generally the best teams. So in that sense, it's very fair, which is good.
Okay, then
then there's a final spot, which we talked about, which is if you get second in a qualifier, then you get to play in a live play-in at the international for that last spot. And one of the things they did this year that's new is they actually had an open qualifier where anyone could just sign up and play in this gigantic 1,000-team bracket.
Jesus.
And if you won that, then you got a spot into the qualifier. So theoretically, someone could have gone from the open bracket into the international directly if their team was good enough.
So then once they get to the international, right, they go through all the qualifiers, they finally get it, the wild card is chosen. How do the teams play one another, from start to finals?
Well, it's different every year. Generally what they do is they have, I think 2 years ago they had 2 groups. They split the teams into 2 groups of 8, and then they played a round robin best of 2. And then that just seeded into a double elimination bracket where if you were low, you got seeded into the bottom half, and if you were good, you got seeded in the top half. Last year it was a little bit different. They had one giant group where every team played every other team, which was kind of chaotic. And then after that, they had a tiered bracket system where depending on where you finished in that, you get placed into this bracket thing where you'd play other teams, and then they cut to the final, I forget if it was 12 or 10, and then those teams played in the main event in the Key Arena.
Okay.
Seattle.
Jeff, how do you feel about EG this year?
A little bit earlier, they I can't remember which term it was, but they actually beat Team Secret, which was kind of their their big Mount Everest, like, the guys that splintered off left because they didn't think that was a team that could win the international, and they went and made a new team, a new super team. So that was really nice. But I think MLG's one of those like kind of fortunate kicks in the dick a little bit, or punch in the chin, if you want to be a little bit more family friendly, where it's like, hey, you guys actually need to play really, really well, and you are fallible, and you can lose, even to Greek guys playing on a British team, and formats or excuses aside, that's definitely a possibility, and all eyes point to the international. Like, every tournament is basically a test run for drafts and an idea of meta approaching the international, because if you win no tournaments, but you win just the international, that is all you'll be remembered for the entire year, and you'll make enough money where, fuck it, the other tournaments don't even matter anyways. So that's what I thought was kind of funny about the Dota scene, was that like it gets so polarized that way. Like I think ESO 1 was like a week, it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the international last year, and I was like, well, that's really poor planning, because that entire tournament just became, literally everyone's like, oh great, this is good, so we'll see all the throwaway builds from the teams that are hiding their real stuff.
Yep.
That actually
and ESO
wasn't
1,
ESL's
meanwhile, I was
fault.
like,
do you remember that?
It's what?
Do you remember what happened there? Was that ESL planned their tournament thinking that the international would be in July or in August, because every year it's in August. So they planned an event, and then MLG had another event, which were both like late June, and they were like, okay, these will be the last events. There'll be a month of nothing, and then people will play the international. And then in September, in January of last year, Valve came out and was like, oh, by the way, we couldn't book a venue for August, and so we're doing it in mid-July. Have fun, everyone. And MLG had to just like cancel their event because no one was going to go to it. And ESL Frankfurt ended up being like 3 weeks before the event or something crazy.
There you go. I like my version better because it sounds funnier, and I know Kennegat will hate me for life when I make those jokes. But no, I'm just kidding. Kidding aside. But yeah, that's how big the international is. And as far as like, I don't know, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I'm a completely blind fanboy of EG. Like, I watch all of their games. I don't play Dota 2, but I do follow the scene because I really respect the game. I think it's an incredible game, really fun, and I would play it if it weren't for the fact that StarCraft takes up all my time. And then I actually really like CSGO. I've got a history in that. I never played MOBAs in the past, but I did play 1.6. And then all my other time is split between my wife and Warhammer 40,000. So that's all I can fit. Dota's one of those games. I'm not the kind of gamer who would be like, I'll play some Dota and then like hop in and be like, well, I picked the dwarven guy in the helicopter, and he's just kind of, I'll just float around the middle of the map and kill some creatures. And they're like, people are like, fuck you, Dota, fire, hate you. And I'm like, this game seems rather robust in its attitude, and like when I play games, I want to be really good at it, so that takes a lot of time, and I don't have the time to give. Like, I'm already okay at CS:GO, and I'm interested and excited about putting more time in that to get better at it. So that's a long side story, but yeah, I think he's just going to win the international, and they're going to crush everyone. No, I'm just kidding, but they're going to do really well, and I do want EG versus Secret finals. I think that would be the most epic thing ever. There's some bad blood there. They're like friends, but they're Dota friends, which means like they still hate each other and they wish failures upon each other, but they like also get drunk together. It's really interesting to kind of look.
They're very open about it too. Like,
super open about it.
At BTS where they were asking Arteezy like, oh, what if you play G in the finals? He's like, yeah, that'd be sick. I want to see PPD fail.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
So do you think that Matt? Do you echo the sentiment? Same EG Secret finals.
Yeah, EG Secret would be pretty good. I mean, I always want to see Navi do well because they're like an institution at the international. I like watching the CIS teams, so Empire and VP, and Navi, just because they have like a crazy style that involves them like killing everyone at minute 1. So that's kind of my general Dota thoughts in a nutshell. I like watching Russian Dota.
I have a question about the prestige of the tournament. Money aside, $13 million aside, has this been the prestige tournament for it just because it's the finals, or is it has it always been the top tournament?
Yeah, it's always been the event to be like considered the best, you need to win it. There's just no way around that. The reason is both because it historically was the only event Valve ran. This is going to no longer be true. They're going to run more events now. But it was also, it dwarfs everything else by an order of magnitude. Like the next So for example, this year, the next biggest tournament was DAC, which I think had a total prize pool of 5 million or something. It had a prize pool almost equivalent to that of TI3, where EG won it, and they won something like 3 million total.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which is amazing, but like the history books only sort of remember that tournament. They remember it, but it's nowhere near as prestigious as TI3, which was a similar size only 18 months earlier. So it's those things.
That's the funny impact I find. Like I'm interested. It has not been as doom and gloom as I thought. Like a couple of years ago, when the international started really blowing up like this, I was like, "Oh God, this is going to be really bad for the scene in the long run." But so far, other than the typical gripes of anyone in esports, it's pretty funny. It's fine. Like there are so many other events. The viewership is still pretty great. They're not crushing it. They're not like it's not like 55 million people or whatever. I think that fervor died off a little. Not even died off, but diversified. There's a lot of people watching CS:GO. People still watch LoL. And then a lot of people watch Dota too. But I was thinking a tournament that just so incredibly eclipses everything else would be really bad, like an MLG or ESL. They'd be like, should we run a Dota event? And they'd be like, well, why bother? If we're like announcing a $100,000 first place prize, and people are like, that's a drop in the bucket of these other tournaments. It's like, why even bother? But the viewership's still been pretty decently, so I guess it hasn't had the negative effect yet. But I want to see if as as we keep going further, when literally in the International 2017, they finally hit the $1 billion mark, and it's just fucking disgusting. It's just gross money, Do anybody else even try? Or does the bubble pop a little bit where they're like, well, we can't, so we don't?
Well, that's interesting because I actually do think last year was sort of the tipping point where it got to the point where it was too big for its own good, just in the sense that it was roughly equivalent to like the rest of the year combined or something insane. But Valve apparently agrees with that, and they had a couple of summits where they flew in some players and some organizers to kind of talk about how they were running the scene, that kind of thing. And they're going to be switching over to a format where they run 4 majors a year, one of which will be the International. So it'll be a little bit closer to CSGO. They haven't released a lot of details. Presumably, it'll mean the International is a little bit smaller, and then it kind of builds up these other events, so it spreads it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I do actually think that it poses a problem when you have one event that gets to a certain size. As a team owner, it makes it really tough because it's hard to manage a team where their best strategy is to only prepare for this one event and to treat everything else like a practice session. It makes it hard because they can like kick players, they can like test stuff out. They don't really have any contractual obligations because nothing matters except for this 1 month period. And so it's a lot better on that end too. For the players, I guess I don't know if they care a ton one way or another. I think they just kind of want to get what they can. So.
Okay. Well, let's see. I think that one other thing is I'm curious about Root because I started following Root this year.
Yes.
For them. So did they have a chance to get? They seemed like they got pretty close to getting to the International.
Yeah, they weren't really considered They weren't really considered favorites, I guess you'd say. The NA region is sort of like StarCraft in that it's not really known for its Dota prowess. Mm-hmm. And so it would not have been super shocking had they done really well. I don't think they were really that close to ever winning it, though. Mouse Sports was considered the favorite pretty heavily, and they ended up not even making top 2. So, but Root does have 2 ex-Liquid players, so they're a team that I continue to watch personally.
Okay. We're getting ready to wrap up the show, but I do have another question. Is Arteezy? I know about Arteezy signing the Evil Geniuses because I remember the Arteezy Esports Express article with the chat logs, which, by the way, probably like top 3 favorite Esports Express pieces. And so my question is when did he leave? Actually, I didn't catch that. I didn't notice that until about a month ago. I realized. When did he?
I'm gonna look it up because I don't want to get this wrong because I might be wrong.
Yep.
Give me 10 seconds. Quick, fill for time.
Jeff, what is your second?
Oh. I won't look it up. It was February.
Yeah, close. It was January, but
damn it.
Yeah, basically Team Secret was this team that formed. It was Puppy and Kuroki, who have this crazy long history. They've been playing together since like 2008 or 2007 or something. They spent some time not playing together during the like Navi's glory days in Dota 2. But they kind of like they decided they wanted to go off and form their own team, so they went and just kind of sourced people. And they had a pretty good team last fall, but then they were kind of like trying out different people.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where I don't know how exactly it happened, but they got Arteezy and Zai from EG earlier this year, and they've been really good with that lineup.
Okay. Cool. That was just a personal question, something I've kind of noticed recently that it hadn't struck me that he had left. But so anyway, that is going to wrap up the late game for today. Today was our first time, venturing into Dota.
When did LeBron James join the Cavaliers? Does anyone know that date? I had no idea.
Oh, you can't see my face. Oh, speaking of the Cavaliers, anyone a Warriors fan? No.
I'm just gonna let the silence hang in the air.
They took my Supersonics, so I don't watch the NBA as much anymore.
All right. Well, anyway, guys, this has been the late game for those who stuck around from the StarCraft stuff. Thank you for those who just tuned in for the first time because we have Hayoka here and we talk Dota. Thank you guys for coming on. Hayoka, first time on the show, I think that as we venture forth into the other games, especially Dota, we're going to be having you back more. So you want to tell people where they can find you, give your shout-outs and all that stuff?
Well, you can find me on Team Liquid. I do a lot of bad posting there. Also, I'm a real Hayoka on Twitter because some guy took Hayoka and he's a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a Facebook.
Technically,
Yeah,
he
that's
would be
it.
the real one, I guess.
Yeah, he got there before me. Just
Yeah.
really disappointing. He's a web developer too, so maybe we have more in common than I thought.
Not Twitter
all I
account,
got.
though, because he has it.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he's got the Twitter account. Hey, okay.
Very sad.
What is Hayoka? Where does that come from?
It's a Lakota word. It's a ritual. It's like a role in their dance ceremonies. It's a dude that it's called the Sacred Clown. He's the guy that dresses up in like parkas in the summer and just does the opposite of whatever other people are doing.
Are you Lakota?
Contrarian. A little bit, not really enough to actually claim yes.
Okay.
Technically, there is some in my family, so I can say it's more than 0.
So is it enough for a college scholarship?
No.
Okay, gotcha. That's how I judge the significance of Native American heritage. I guess I don't know. That's a joke. Sorry.
Well, you're a filthy American imperialist, so that's how you would judge it.
Oh, so speaking of Manifest Destiny, in my fantasy LCS, I was going to go with Manifest Destiny. I thought, man, that's a little too insensitive, so I went with Eminent Domain, and then my friend ended up taking the Manifest Destiny. So Manifest Destiny versus Eminent Domain was last week. It was a pretty epic battle. Anyway, beyond that, Hayoka.
Wait, who won? Don't keep us hanging.
Oh, I lost by 6.06 points. That was fucking ridiculous. Niels, let's talk about Champion, though. Niels, first day, gains 54 points. Now I got cocky, and I was all like, oh, my God, I'm going to crush you today. It's going to fucking stomp your shit in. And then fucking the ponies, what are they called? The Unicorns of Love or whatever? They came back, and he had a lot invested in Unicorns of Love and Fnatic, and that kind of hurt me pretty badly. And then, Element just screwed me, so I got rid of What's His Nuts and got the notorious POB as my replacement for him. So, anyway, that's my my rant about my fantasy LCS. Do you play the fantasy, Hayoka, or Jeff?
Not for LCS, no.
No? Is there a fantasy Dota?
There's one in the game, yeah.
Okay, I might have to get that. So, I saw that I was reading the subreddit today. I haven't played Dota in a while. How is Zeus? Is Zeus still powerful?
Yeah. I mean, he's better than he was a year ago. I would say maybe the same as he was. People are starting to do a thing where they get like Zeus and I can't think of his name now. Bloodseeker, because they can like amplify damage and stuff. It's fun.
I enjoyed them. So anyway, you gave your Twitter. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I got nothing.
All
Just
right.
how beautiful you are and how great your show is.
Oh,
Too, Jeff. Everything you do is amazing.
That's why I brought Jeff on here. It's like getting a legendary item in World of Warcraft, man. It just makes you all the more better all around. Just trying to figure out what his proc is. We still haven't got to that point yet. Still stacking. Anyway, so that is us. Jeff, your first time as co-host. You want to give your sign off? Say anything to the people?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Had a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing talk show every week again. It's something that I've been doing for years, but have not had an outlet to do. So thank you, Lycan, for providing that. And thanks to our guests for coming on. Hey, okay.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking more esports next week. See you guys then.
Yep. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.